Only after death did I learn that my husband never touched me because he was deeply in love with my best friend. The two of them spent their whole lives loving without being together, remaining faithful to each other. My best friend's professor husband also lived his entire life like a celibate monk. After being reborn, I grabbed the professor's hand first and said, "I like you, let's be together." The professor's eyes darkened. "Perfect. So am I." We hit it off right away, but this time, it was my husband and best friend who weren't too happy about it. After being tormented by lung cancer until I had no strength left, I finally closed my eyes. The soul did not vanish, it merely departed from the body. Watching my husband, just over 40, and my best friend since childhood, tightly embracing in the hospital room, they look like a pair of lovebirds whispering sweet nothings to each other. Ahau, don't be too sad. Ran is already gone, Suchi. I'm so glad I still have you by my side. From now on, I'll take Ran's place and stay with you forever. I'll even give you a child, so we can be together as a family. You don't need to replace anyone. The one I've always loved in my heart is you. Ahau, I love you too. Great, truly great. If I weren't a ghost right now, I'd actually want to applaud that shameless old couple. I remember when Suchi's husband died of stomach cancer. She wasn't too sad. Instead, it was my husband Wei Hao who, with red-rimmed eyes, anxiously fussed over her in every way. She also told me that she would be all alone from now on, and asked me to look after her a bit more. I comforted her at the time, and she said, "To be honest, I've never loved Gu Qinghua in my entire life. You have no idea how much I envy you, having Ahau by your side." I was so clueless back then, completely missing the subtext in her words, and I just hugged her and said, "We're all family. If it makes you happy, you can even boss him around like a husband." As I said this, I didn't notice Wei Hao knocking over the plate in his excitement, nor did I see Suchi gazing at him with tender affection. Looking back, what I said was really inappropriate. After 20 years of marriage, I never realized they had been secretly carrying on behind my back all along. A heart full of resentment and frustration transformed into a tremendous force, dragging my soul down into the abyss. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the coffee shop from 20 years ago. My besties and I, 4 of us, are sitting at a table at a group blind date event. Across from me, the late Professor Gu, who died young, looked incredibly youthful. He wore gold-rimmed glasses, and his delicate, handsome features made him seem like a character straight out of a manga. In her previous life, Suchi said she didn't like tall people, but after the mixer, she took the initiative to ask Gu Qinghua out, and the two quickly got together and got married. And so, the leftover rough guy Wei Hao and I, after days of aimlessly strolling the streets, found each other decent and ended up together. Looking back now, Wei Hao's eyes were clearly glued to the petite Suchi the entire time. I decided to strike first. Even if we can't be together, saving Gu Qinghua once would still count as a good deed. Professor Gu, right, I really like you. How about we go for a walk? A flicker of surprise passed through Suchi's eyes as she looked at me. I usually let her choose first in situations like this before Gu Qinghua on the other side stayed silent. I thought I'd be turned down, but to my surprise, he said, "Sure." Gu Qinghua stood up and picked up my backpack for me. "Let's go." It wasn't until we were far from the restaurant that I snapped back to reality, looking at him apologetically. "Sorry about what I just said, don't get me wrong, I didn't mean to." "Not what?" Gu Qinghua smiled faintly, pushing up his glasses with his index finger. "Miss Chen, don't you want to go on a date with me?" His smile swept away every shred of reason in my mind. All that was left was my heart pounding like a drum. To be honest, Gu Qinghua's looks didn't fit the current beauty standards, too gentle and bookish, with a lean frame that clearly suggested he wasn't cut out for manual labor. But when he looked at me, I still heard the sound of my heart fluttering. "Teacher Gu, you don't mind that my conditions are poor?" Gu Qinghua smiled upon hearing this and said, "I think Miss Chen is quite wonderful, too." In the following days, Suchi didn't come to see me, probably busy dating Wei Hao. I didn't bother to ask and just focused on dating Gu Qinghua. In those days, fast food romance wasn't a thing yet. A so-called date was just strolling down the street and chatting about life and dreams. When I mentioned that I had to drop out of school to support my younger brother and expressed how regretful I felt, he suddenly interrupted me. "Take the college entrance exam again, Ran. What? Retake the college entrance exam. Diplomas will only become more important in the future." Absolutely. In this second life, I was so focused on avoiding Wei Hao and Suchi that how could I have forgotten this? But having been a housewife all her life, she knows nothing about these things. I felt a bit unsure again. Am I up to it? He grabbed her hand and said, "Trust me, Ran, you can do this." I had just sat down at home when I heard someone shouting at the door. As soon as he stepped out, Suchi was standing right at the door. Her face was full of anger. "Chinran, why are you trying to take Gu Qinghai from me? Unlike me, who had to take care of my younger siblings and ended up acting way older than my age." Suchi was a lively and cheerful girl. She had always longed for a Qiong Yao-style romantic love, so I had always assumed that Suchi and Gu Qinghai grew apart only after they got married. After we got married, Wei Hao and I were busy living our own lives and rarely had much in-depth contact with them. Wei Hao is a skilled worker with a decent income, but he doesn't have the typical macho attitude and is actually quite considerate. When I was pregnant, he would knock off work early and come home to cook. If he saw I wasn't feeling well, he'd rub my feet and chat with me about everyday things. This scene was once witnessed by Suchi, who was visiting our home. She said enviously, "Your old Wei sure has a way with words." I was happy too, but figuring Gu Qinghai must be feeling the same. I said, "Your old Gu is an intellectual. When it comes to being sweet, he must be even more so, right?" She frowned and shook her head. "Shut up, you're such a nerd, you're annoying to look at, you have no idea." On our wedding day, his mother tried to put me in my place, and he didn't say a single word. Then at night, he still wanted to touch me. Dream on. I was dumbfounded. "So you've never, exactly." Suchi lifted her chin with its sundera air. "True pleasure for a woman comes only when her body and mind are in harmony, otherwise. How is she any different from an animal?" Back then, I didn't know that she really made Gu Qinghai live like a monk for his entire life. It wasn't until Gu Qinghai passed away from stomach cancer that Suchi finally broke down and poured out her grievances to me. She was supposed to hate Gu Qinghai, so why does she look like I've stolen her beloved? I frowned at Suchi. "You like Gu Qinghai, so what is Wei Hao supposed to be?" She opened her mouth as if to speak, but said nothing. I finally see it clearly. "Oh, so you're blaming me for getting there first, no matter who it is. As long as I choose them, you think they're good, is that it?" Her face flushed red. You're talking nonsense. What do you take me for?" "Then what did you mean by that just now?" Unable to argue her way out, she started to play dirty. "I don't care, I like Gu Qinghai now, and you have to give him up to me." I'm so angry that I had to laugh. "I'm not your mother, so why should I give in to you? I would sooner let a pig or a dog near him than let that ungrateful bastard harm Gu Qinghai again." I stood my ground and didn't budge an inch, making her stomp her feet in fury. Before he could say anything more, a cold voice cut him off. Even if she were willing to give in, I would not agree. Gu Qinghai returned, standing under the willow tree, his eyes filled with coldness. He looked at Suchi with a sneer. "Who do you think you are? Trying to boss me around? Do you even deserve it?" 3. Suchi's face instantly flushed red. She looked at Gu Qinghai with grievance, only to find him completely unmoved. Gu Qinghai came over and shoved a set of books into my hands. "I figured you might not have the time, so I went ahead and bought the book for you." The sight of his thoughtfulness only drove Suchi wild with jealousy. She turned her head and looked at me with a pitiful expression. "Chinran, we grew up together. I've always seen you as my own sister. Why are you trying to take Teacher Gu away from me? I really want to be with Mr. Gu. Please, just let me have him, okay?" She wept profusely, looking utterly heartbroken. Gu Qinghai let out a cold sneer. "Are you deaf or what?" I said. "Even if she gave the go-ahead, I still won't like you." His tone was laced with undisguised disgust, and I instinctively glanced at him. Strange. At this point he shouldn't be familiar with Suchi, right? Lost in thought, Suchi stormed off in a huff. He turned his head and looked at me. "Don't you dare give me away to her." "You hear?" I nodded. "Okay." I had just gotten home with a book in my hand, and before I could even put it down, I was slapped on the back of the head. "You little brat, where did you get the money to buy books?" My mother glared at me furiously. "It was a gift from a friend." "What friends? I think you're just lying to me. Did you steal money from home?" My mother's face was ashen. "Are you out of your mind? That money was for your brother to build up his strength. He finally has 2 days off this weekend, and I wanted to get him a decent meal. How could you just spend it?" I've already forgotten how chaotic that day was. All I remember is that when Gu Qinghai saw my bruised and swollen face the next day, he was rarely a bit embarrassed. "Sorry, my mom returned the book you bought." His expression immediately turned sour. "Don't worry, I will definitely pay you back. It's not that I'm stingy with the money." He sighed and said nothing. That evening, Gu Qinghai showed up at my door with a few bags of fruit. I have no idea what he discussed with my mom, but after he left, she was all smiles and told me to get ready for marriage. Oh my, I never expected my daughter to have such good taste. She actually found a teacher. Ran, when you make it big, don't forget to take care of your little brother. I kept quiet and watched her happily head into the kitchen. Anyway, once I get into college, I'll be out of here. For I married Gu Qinghuai that day. He showed up with fruit to formally ask for her hand in marriage. The wedding was hastily arranged, but not a single proper ritual was missed. I sent invitations to both Suchi and Wei Hao, but neither of them showed up. During the tea ceremony, my mother-in-law suddenly asked me to kowtow to our ancestors. My heart skipped a beat as I recalled the harsh words Suchi had once said. He obediently knocked his head 3 times with a thud, leaving his forehead red. This made my mother-in-law laugh. She rubbed my forehead while slipping a jade bracelet onto my wrist. We're poor, with nothing else to offer. Take this family heirloom. So this is what Suchi meant by a show of force. I stared at the emerald green bracelet, my heart a tangled mess of emotions. Gu Qinghuai took my hand and said, since mom gave it to you, just take it. After the toasts were made and the guests had dispersed, the room fell quiet. I sat on the wooden bed, feeling a shyness I hadn't known in a long time. It sounds crazy, but after my miscarriage, Wei Hao pretty much stopped wanting to touch me. After that rare occasion, he would always lean against the headboard and smoke for a long time. It was only after I died that I found out the miscarriage was also caused by Suchi feeding me blood-activating medicine. Gu Qinghuai took a shower, changed into pajamas, and came over with a towel to dry my hands. He had drunk quite a bit. His thin lips and the corners of his eyes flushed with a hint of seductive allure. What, got something on your mind? Scared of me? I shook my head to dismiss those tangled emotions. Not having children is fine too, fewer worries. I'm more afraid that I won't be able to control myself, I replied. Gu Qinghuai smiled and said, go take a shower. I've already heated the water for you. Blushing, I dawdled my way to the bathroom. Halfway through my shower, the lights suddenly went out. I let out a gasp and had just stood up when Gu Qinghuai walked in holding a candle. He froze for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was a little hoarse. My wife, she's quite a pleasant surprise. The rest will fall into place naturally. His burning persistence melted me into a puddle of water at the moment of ecstasy, almost to the point of fainting. The light suddenly came back on. Gu Qinghuai's ink-black eyes were fixed on me, as if I were his entire world. In truth, I hadn't met Gu Qinghuai many times in my past life. I only found him aloof and proud. Suchi said that after marriage, he was always busy with school affairs and often stayed overnight at work. From teacher to professor, every penny he earned went to her. Suchi dressed to the nines, spending her days sipping coffee and browsing the mall, while he, until his dying day, had only 2 sets of work uniforms, and those were tattered. As I thought about it, a pang of bitterness welled up in my heart. Gu Qinghuai noticed something was off with me and leaned in to kiss me. Ran, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? I hugged him even tighter. You're wonderful, honey. I'm going to be so good to you from now on. He nibbled at my lips, seeming to murmur something. Listening again, only a soft sigh remains. It's only natural to oversleep. The next day, blushing, I scrambled out of the covers on all fours, only to be pulled back by Gu Qinghuai. What are you up to so early in the morning? I'm going to make breakfast. He held me and lazed around for a bit before finally getting out of bed. You were too tired last night. Go back to sleep. I'll take care of it. Seeing his back covered in red welts, I covered my face and burrowed into the bed covers. It seems marrying Gu Qinghuai isn't such a bad thing after all. 5. My blissful life with Gu Qinghuai had almost made me forget about Suchi until that day. Wei Hao suddenly came to see me. To be honest, in both of my lives combined, I rarely lost my temper with Wei Hao. By the standards of that era, he was a decent husband and a dutiful father. His only fault was that he didn't love me. But when he told me to my face to give Gu Qinghuai back to Suchi, I got angry. That hatred was almost impossible to contain. What about me? It was as if he had just realized what I said. He opened his mouth, and after a long pause, finally mumbled, I'll marry you. As she spoke, her tone grew a bit more resolute. Divorce him, and I'll marry you. I laughed in exasperation, and then naturally, we'll just live a good life together. Wei Hao added, don't worry. I won't hold it against you that you've been married before. If heaven had X-ray vision, it would see that the question marks in my head are about to burst through the top of my skull right now. I stared at him in disbelief. Do you think you're better than Gu Qinghuai? Why should I choose you? He blurted out. This is what you owe Suchi. What? At the mixer that day, it was obviously Teacher Gu that Suchi had her eye on. You're her best friend. How could you steal him away? Suchi's been crying at home every day. She's even fallen ill now. If anything happens to her, you'll be the one to blame. Now I'm sure both of them are seriously messed up. One loves taking what belongs to others, while the other gets off on self-sacrifice and self-pity. I took a deep breath to suppress my anger. Get the hell out of here now, or I'll beat you to death. Wei Hao, you and Suchi are a perfect match. You two should be locked together forever and stop ruining other people's lives, you overconfident loser. 6. I kicked Wei Hao out, and he even fell flat on his face while running away. I stood at the door, hands on my hips, laughing heartily. Being a shrew really does feel good. Turning my head, I saw Gu Qinghai holding pastries and looking right at me. Oh no, he didn't just hear what I said, did he? I was mortified and racking my brain for a way to save face. I never expected that he wouldn't ask me about it until after dinner. After my shower, I knocked on the study door. Gu Qinghai was sitting in a chair, lost in thought, and waved me over when he saw me. The moment I approached, he pulled me into his arms. He buried his head in my chest. Honey, I want to confirm something. What's up? Let's keep it verbal. Alright, no need to get physical. He nibbled on my earlobe and said in a low, husky voice, digging in a tiny little garden. My mind was still in a daze, wondering why this guy was driving so fast. In a flash of lightning, I realized something and snapped my eyes wide open. Gu Qinghai. He covered my mouth. Shoo, my parents are asleep. My heart was pounding so fast I felt like throwing up, the tenderness replaced by sheer surprise as I stared at him in disbelief. Don't you also? He nodded. Yeah, I've been reborn. No wonder he agreed so quickly when I asked him out that day. No wonder he had an inexplicable hostility towards Suchi, and no wonder he made me take the college entrance exam. I was so moved I almost cried. This is wonderful. Truly wonderful. The fall of a favored son of heaven is like a lump of foul air stuck in the throat, every bit of it a lingering regret. Fortunately, heaven had its eyes open and gave Gu Qinghai a second chance. I nestled into his arms, slowly wrapping my arms around him. He tightened his hold and carried me into the bedroom, laying us down, our bodies pressed perfectly together without a single gap. His arms felt safe and reassuring, bringing a sense of calm. I closed my eyes and thought for a moment, then decided to ask anyway, what really happened between you and Suchi back then? Suchi told me a lot of bad things about Gu Qinghai. Cold, quiet, withdrawn, and with an unbearable arrogance. I always thought that was why they didn't get along. But then Gu Qinghai told me that he was tricked into marrying Suchi from the start. I thought she liked me too, at first, but on our wedding night, she refused to be with me, and cried, saying my mother humiliated her with the bracelet. I explained to her many times that my mom didn't mean it that way, but she wouldn't listen. Later, I went crawling back to beg her, and every time she'd deliberately humiliate me in front of everyone. After she got cancer, she told me that she actually regretted it soon after we got together, but she couldn't bear to let go of my status as a teacher and didn't want to break up with me. She drained my entire life, and even after I died, she still wouldn't let me go. My body was still lying in state when she pulled Wei Hao into her arms, crying and kissing him. She told Wei Hao that she loathed me, that she must have been blind to have ever fallen for me. But when I think about it carefully, haven't I been just as stubborn, wasting my whole life on her? When Gu Qinghai talked about these things, it was as if he were telling someone else's story, but I knew that, like me, he was nursing a sense of grievance. I patted him on the shoulder and said, you don't have to say it, I already know. That's exactly why I feel even more sorry for him. Gu Qinghai kissed my forehead and suddenly said, actually, that day, I saw it. What? I propped myself up, and he tilted my chin up to kiss me deeply. I saw you covering the hole in my clothes with your handkerchief. In her previous life, Gu Qinghai died of cancer. Unlike other cancer patients, he seemed as if he had simply fallen asleep on the other side of the wall. Suchi was complaining to someone. He was nothing but a selfish bastard, leaving me a widow at such a young age. My whole life has been nothing but suffering. Seeing the shirt of the person in the coffin full of holes, I felt a heavy weight in my chest. This man was perfect in every way, yet his marriage was doomed to fail, leaving him lonely for life. But his wife Suchi is my best friend, so I can't really say anything. He took out the handkerchief he carried with him, folded it neatly, and tucked it into the shirt, barely managing to grant him a final shred of dignity. Recalling this scene, Gu Qinghai choked up, held me tighter, and deepened the kiss. In the throes of emotion, he even shed tears. Ran, thank goodness I have you. In this life, let's live our days well together. After holding him for a while, I laughed at him. Your joke is so outdated, still digging and digging. That's ancient. His face flushed slightly as he scratched his head. That's what the students told me. 7. I began to fully focus on preparing for the college entrance exam, while Gu Qinghui bought books to study computer science. The coming decades will be an era of rapid internet development, and we cannot afford to miss this opportunity. In the midst of striving, I heard the news that Su Qi and Wei Hao are getting married. She sent someone to deliver an invitation, asking me to attend her wedding feast. I've shared nearly half my life with her, thinking we were as close as real sisters, never imagining we'd end up like this over a man this time. I'll just wait and see if she actually ends up living a good life after marrying Wei Hao as she wished. On her wedding day, she wore a red dress, her face betraying little emotion. Wei Hao, on the other hand, was beaming with joy, drinking from one end of the table to the other. Drunk and unsteady, he reached for Su Qi's hand, but she sidestepped, avoiding his touch. I saw it all, and I couldn't quite put into words what I felt inside. We were still eating at around 4 in the afternoon when Gu Qinghui came to pick me up after class. He looked quite handsome in the shirt and trousers I just bought for him, so I couldn't help but give him a couple of kisses. The moment I got on the bike, my eyes met Su Qi's as she looked over. She also caught sight of Gu Qinghui, a flicker of admiration flashing in her eyes. Gu Qinghui just looked down at me, smiled, and helped me straighten my pant cuffs before saying, "Let's go." A few days later, Su Qi knocked on my door. She awkwardly apologized to me. Ran, I was wrong. Please don't ignore me. I didn't say a word. Just let her come in and sit for a while. After that day, she seemed to have forgotten our conflict and started dropping by my place every few days. Sometimes when it was time for a meal, she would glance toward the door. Teacher Gu, still not off work. That's such hard work. The teacher Gu she kept talking about had been teaching evening classes at school for a whole week just to avoid her. I didn't call her out on her little scheme and just smiled, saying he's been busy with work lately, so he'll be off duty a bit later. Su Qi let out an "oh," a hint of disappointment on her face. I looked at her and said, "Wei Hao should be home soon. Aren't you going back to cook for him?" She pursed her lips. "He can just grab something to eat. He comes home all stinky every day, and he thinks he can act like a king and have me wait on him. Dream on." I gave a faint smile and said nothing. Only after seeing her off did Gu Qinghui dare to come back. He frowned slightly. "When are you going to fall out with her? I'm stuck at school every day, and I miss you so much." Perhaps it was the pent-up frustration from 2 lifetimes. But now Gu Qinghui was like a cat that couldn't resist stealing a nibble. Not only is he clingy in private, but his sweet talk gets spicier and spicier. Sometimes it even makes me blush. She gave her a playful push. "Once I finish my college entrance exams and you get your certificate, let's move the whole family to Beijing. For now, we're all neighbors here. It wouldn't be good to burn bridges." Gu Qinghui kissed me and said, "All right, whatever my wife says." 8. Gu Qinghui tried his best to dodge, but in the end, he still ran into Su Qi. It was a rare weekend, and Su Qi came knocking early in the morning. The moment she stepped inside and saw him sitting on the sofa, she hurried over with a blush. "Teacher Gu, what are you doing?" He glanced at me in the kitchen and instinctively moved a bit farther away. Su Qi, however, didn't mind at all and sat down right next to her. "No, I heard you're a teacher. There are some words in my book I don't recognize. Could you teach me?" She wore a cross-collar dress, with a generous expanse of fair skin visible at her chest. Gu Qinghui harbored resentment, his eyes glaring at her with barely concealed anger. He stood up with a sneer. "Miss Su, please behave yourself. My wife is in the kitchen." Watching the resolute figure walk away, Su Qi's eyes reddened. She gritted her teeth in resentment, turned her head sharply, and met my cold, indifferent gaze. A flicker of guilt crossed my mind. Ran, are you done with your work?" I hummed in acknowledgement. If I hadn't finished up, I wouldn't have caught this great show. "What are you even talking about? I don't understand a word you're saying." Su Qi played dumb, trying to change the subject. Ran, how come you have so many books at home? Are they all Teacher Gu's?" "No, it's mine. I'm going to take the college entrance exam." Sure enough, Su Qi's expression shifted slightly. She tried to force a smile. "Why, you're already married. Why bother with all that exhaustion? Is Teacher Gu treating you badly?" I shrugged. "No, he's the one who told me to take the exam. He said once I pass, he'll find a way to get me a job at the school." Su Qi's face suddenly fell. In her heart, she has always seen herself as better than me. Subconsciously, they have to compare everything with me. I used to be blind to all this, my head full of thoughts about our bond. If she wanted to compete, I'd let her win. If she wanted sweet words, I'd say them too make her happy. I gave in to her and everything, yet she still ended up flirting with my husband right in front of my corpse. Now that I think about it, how much of Wei Hao's coldness was actually orchestrated by her? How smug must she feel knowing my husband remained chaste just for her? Su Qi, since you love comparing so much, I'll make sure you can never measure up to me for the rest of your life. She didn't contact me for days after she left, and I was just fully focused on studying when I went back to my parents' house. I happened to hear my mom say that Su Qi had a fight with her husband, and apparently she's insisting on taking the college entrance exam. Wei Hao is just a technician. How could he possibly understand this? I just thought, if she wants to take the exam, let her. So I bought the books for her. In the end, after studying for 2 days until her head was spinning, Su Qi picked a fight with Wei Hao, had a huge argument, and then turned around and smacked him on the head, leaving him with a bruised and battered face. Hearing this, I felt a deep sense of poetic justice and immense satisfaction, so much so that I became even more engrossed in my reading. On the night before the college entrance exam, Su Qi suddenly came to see me. She came carrying a pot of chicken soup, saying she wanted to cheer me on. Ran, I made this especially for you. It's from the 3-year-old hen my mother-in-law raised. The flavor's wonderful. Here, have a taste. I gazed at the golden yellow soup. I wouldn't dare drink this. Why, are you afraid I might plant something? Ha, you gave yourself away. I shrugged. Yeah, afraid you might slip something in my drink. Su Qi was choked with anger, a flicker of resentment flashing in her eyes before it was quickly masked by a smile. We've been sisters for over a decade, and you still doubt me. That really hurts. If you don't believe me, I'll drink it right in front of you. She poured a bowl and gulped it down in a few big swallows. He poured another bowl and handed it to me, saying, see, do you believe me now? Seeing her ingratiating demeanor, I curled my lips into a smile. I believe you, but I was about to speak when Gu Qinghuai's voice came from behind. Ran, Mom's looking for you. Come back quickly. All right. Without sparing another glance at Su Qi's face, which had turned an ugly shade of purple, I smiled and said goodbye, then turned to follow Gu Qinghuai into the house. The next day, Gu Qinghuai took a special day off to accompany me for the exam. When I finished and walked out, he handed me a thermos cup. Suki had diarrhea all night at home yesterday and ended up in the hospital. With a brain like that, how did I let her fool me for over 20 years? I looked at him with amusement. It's okay, you're not the only victim. The tone made Gu Qinghuai laugh too. He reached out and wiped the water stain from the corner of my mouth. Yes, we're a couple who've been through thick and thin together, both having stumbled over the same pitfall. Let Wei Hao enjoy all this good fortune from now on. We'll just focus on living our own happy lives. 9 Hand in hand, we ambled home. As soon as we reached the door, we saw a big-headed chicken squatting on the doorstep. Wei Hao, what are you doing? It's curled up in a ball late at night. Pretty creepy. When Wei Hao saw me, a flicker of emotion crossed his face. He rushed over to embrace me, but upon noticing my hand clasped with Gu Qinghuai's, he stepped back 2 paces. Why, me? He stared at me intensely. Why did you choose him? I was baffled. Obviously because he's handsome and has a great body. No, that's not right. You were supposed to be my wife. He grabbed my hand excitedly. Chinran, the one you should have married is me. We even had a child together. Have you forgotten? His palms were ice cold, and he gripped me with astonishing strength. It looks like Wei Hao has also been reborn. Seeing how agitated he was, Gu Qinghuai stepped forward to shield me behind him. Wei Hao, what the hell are you doing barging into someone's house in the middle of the night? Let go of my wife. Shut up, she's my wife. We lived together for 20 years, and I was the one who buried her when she died. Who the hell do you think you are to fight me for her? Hearing that, I couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my hand and slapped Wei Hao hard across the face. So you do remember I'm your wife? Almost gnashing my teeth, I said word by word. Then how did you forget when you were flirting with Su Qi right in front of my corpse? Aren't you too true love? Weren't you keeping yourself pure for her? Weren't you giving me the cold shoulder? Wei Hao, I've been married to you for 20 years. Don't you know in your heart whether you've treated me well or not? Why am I dying? Why do I have lung cancer? It's all because of you. Thinking about Su Qi every day, smoking in the bedroom every day, that's what gave me this disease. I'm only 40, you bastard. The hatred from my past life surged over me, making my whole body tremble. This weak, pathetic coward spent a lifetime subjecting me to passive-aggressive abuse, and now he dares to come to me with such audacity. Wei Hao, let me ask you, if it weren't for Su Qi, would I have had a miscarriage? Wei Hao was so shaken by my scolding that he could barely stand, his face flickered with fear, regret, and sorrow. Before finally dissolving into uncontrollable sobs, he dropped to his knees with a thud at my feet. "I'm sorry, honey, it's all my fault, please forgive me, I can't live without you." The man before me was wearing a grimy work uniform, with a faint smell of sweat. It seemed that life after marrying Suchi hadn't been easy. It's nothing like when he was with me. Hot tea and warm meals, waiting on him hand and foot like a king. Is this missing me, or just needing a maid? I'm afraid even Wei Hao himself isn't sure. Gu Qinghuai and I watched him cry with cold expressions for a while, then exchanged a glance. Gu Qinghuai stepped forward and pried Wei Hao's hand open. He shot him a cold look. "If you truly love Ranran, I'm willing to compete with you fair and square, but only if you're a free man. Your wife is still waiting for you at the hospital, so get the hell out of here and take care of her. All this tugging and pulling will only tarnish Ranran's reputation." Gu Qinghuai pulled me inside the door. When we reached a secluded spot, I leaned in. If Wei Hao gets divorced, would teacher Gu really be willing to give me up? Pinned against the wall by him, a kiss descends. I was lying to him. "Don't even think about it, you're mine." 10. The college entrance exam results came out, and I got into a university in Beijing. After discussing it with Gu Qinghuai and her in-laws, they decided to sell the house and move the entire family to the capital city. While packing my things, I overheard Suchi telling Wei Hao that she wanted a divorce this time. Wei Hao didn't try to stop her, and the two quickly got their marriage license. In this small town of ours, divorce is a huge disgrace, with everyone on the streets gossiping about who had the affair. Suchi sneaked into my house while I was out buying groceries. The door was left wide open because of the move. She went straight up to the second floor, where Gu Qinghuai was organizing his books. He turned around abruptly and was startled to see Suchi lying completely naked on the bed. "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Put your clothes on now." Suchi didn't care at all. She stood up and stepped closer. "Honey, I know you've come back too. I was wrong in our past life. I shouldn't have ignored you." She had deliberately put on makeup and curled her hair, clearly confident that her figure was better than mine. As she walked toward Gu Qinghuai step by step, her eyes were seductive and alluring. She thought, "Men, just coax them a bit, soak them a little. There's nothing that can't be solved." This was how she had driven Wei Hao so crazy in her past life that he abandoned all reason and carried on with her right under Chen Ran's nose. Now, this stiff professor, how could she fail to win him over? But she underestimated Gu Qinghuai's male pride and moral integrity. He stormed downstairs with a grim face, rushed out into the street, and shouted, "Who Sao got loose?" It ran right into my room. It was early evening, and the workers had all returned, gathering in small groups by the entrance to chat. Upon hearing this, everyone rushed in curiously to see. Suchi didn't even have time to get dressed and was completely exposed to the men, women, and children present. Just as I was coming back with the groceries, I happened to hear a scream from inside the house. Amidst a roar of laughter, Suchi burst out of the house wrapped in a blanket. As he brushed past me, he shot me a vicious glare. I instantly realized what had happened and instinctively looked for Gu Qinghuai, only to see him standing by the wall, arms crossed, watching me. The crowd of onlookers was bustling, and the two of us stood facing each other from afar. His thin lips curved slightly as he mouthed to me, "Come here." I pushed through the crowd and made my way to his side. The dispersing onlookers behind exchanged glances and murmured that Suchi had fair legs and a great figure, yet I was completely immersed in Gu Qinghuai's tender affection. He took my hand and gave me a kiss as if presenting a precious treasure. "Honey, I avenged us today." "This idiot." I smiled and patted him on the head, unmoved by temptation. "Our teacher Gu is truly amazing. Then you'll need to reward me well tonight." 11. Gossip spread like wildfire, and before long, the whole town was laughing at Suchi. The two elders of the Su family felt disgraced, so they shut the door and beat her within an inch of her life. My mother said her father lost control of his strength while hitting her, and the stick scratched Suchi's face. "It probably won't heal well." I got into a university in the capital, and Gu Qinghuai was admitted to the same school. I study literature, and he studies computer science. After graduation, he stayed on for a PhD, while I chose a promising leading company. In the first year after graduation, we bought our first home and moved my husband's parents in with us. With a sufficient budget, the 4-bedroom, 2-living-room layout is very comfortable to live in. 2 years later, Gu Qinghuai stayed on as a teacher at the university. We had saved up some money and, before housing prices went up, bought another small apartment. I got pregnant during this time, but the pregnancy was a bit unstable. so I simply took a long leave to rest at home. My in-laws are the kind of talents shaped by their era, though they're a bit older. They still hold decent jobs. They moved into the company dormitory on their own, afraid of disturbing me and Gu Qinghuai every day. Gu Qinghuai and I live a plain but happy life. To make up for the regrets of my past life, I always love buying him lots of clothes, dress him up to look handsome and elegant, and listen to the students' praise. His graceful demeanor. Gu Qinghuai neither agreed nor disagreed. He let me do as I pleased, waiting until I was happy so he could bargain and mess with me in return. In our past lives, both Gu Qinghuai and I died of cancer, so we get a checkup every year. The results always show we're in great health. I know I got lung cancer from secondhand smoke, but I never understood why Gu Qinghuai got cancer. It wasn't until the doctor told me that the stomach and intestines are emotional organs, and sometimes long-term stress can also cause them to get sick. Gu Qing held me in his arms and said that maybe he had been so happy in this life that his stomach was perfectly fine, but I still put him on a strict diet plan. After 5 years of marriage, our bond hasn't cooled with time, it's only grown stronger. At 7 months pregnant, he accompanied me to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. As soon as I stepped into the hall, I heard a familiar pair of voices arguing. Not far away, Su Qi, heavily pregnant, was pointing at the man across from her and cursing him out. You worthless piece of trash, can't even support your wife and kids, what kind of man are you? The scar on her cheek rose and fell with every movement of her mouth, a sight that was particularly unsettling. The man roared, shut up. If you hadn't forced me to quit my job and move to Beijing, would I have been in that car accident? Would I have become disabled? Now I've lost my hand and can't find a job, and you have the nerve to look down on me. Let me tell you, it's all your fault. You're nothing but a jinx. It turned out to be Wei Hao. After all the twists and turns, they are still together. Wei Hao was dressed in rags, his face darkened, and his right sleeve hung empty. His face twisted with rage as he lunged at Su Qi. It's all your fault, all your fault. I was supposed to have a great wife and a stable job. We would have bought a house and a car. I would have become a chief engineer, respected in the industry. You've ruined everything. After being firmly held back, that sense of helplessness finally overwhelmed him. Wei Hao knelt on the ground, clutching his head, tears streaming from his eyes, whether from regret or pain. It was hard to tell. Why did you come back to find me? Why, even now, he still thinks Su Qi is the only one to blame for all of this. Su Qi's eyes were equally cold and indifferent, her tone icy as she spoke. I knew it. You can't let go of Chenran, since you like her so much. Why don't you go find her? Why did you cling to me in our past life like your life depended on it? People like you always have one eye on what's in front of you and the other on what's out of reach. You deserve to lose that hand. It's karma catching up with you. The moment the words left my mouth, our eyes met this time. Instead of rushing over to pick a fight with me, she turned and went up to the second floor. Wei Hao knelt on the ground for a long while before getting up and walking away with a blank expression. Gu Qinghuai and I exchanged a glance, silently agreeing to pretend nothing had happened. After the prenatal checkup, he put his arm around me as we went downstairs. Honey, he said, it's so good to have you. This guy. I smiled and squeezed his hand. You're great too, honey. I know he felt the same days I did when we saw that scene just now. Two lonely souls, wronged by fate, get a second chance at life, finding love, having children. How is this not like a dream? As if both of us wanted to calm each other down, our hands held tightly together, the scorching heat intertwining and lingering. Our hearts gradually settled. Just as I stepped out of the hospital gate, there was a sudden loud crash. Someone jumped off the building. Quick, quick, call a doctor. This person is bleeding so much. Look, he doesn't have a left hand. Was life too hard for him to go on? Where's his family? Who knows? I actually caught a glimpse of that familiar brown out of the corner of my eye. But both Gu Qinghuai and I silently agreed not to look back. When we reached the parking spot, Gu Qinghuai opened the passenger door for me. He fastened my seatbelt, gave me a kiss, then grabbed a blanket from the side and draped it over my legs. Let's go, honey, time to head home. Sure, let's go, sweetie, time to head home for dinner. Behind her, one medical angel after another rushed out, alive or dead, no one knows. Also passing by was Su Qi, who was also pregnant and jogging along. The car fades into the distance. In the end, we were never meant to walk the same path. That's all for the first story. Stay tuned, the next one is even more exciting. During a team dinner, the intern suddenly kissed my husband. My husband coughed. The intern suddenly realized they had overstepped their bounds. Her cheeks instantly flushed crimson as she said shyly, "Sorry, I got a little too excited. I just received some great news. I got into graduate school. At the same time, I also received some good news. My husband's medical checkup results are out. Liver cancer, advanced stage." The intern looked at me, biting her lip with tears in her eyes. "Sister-in-law, I didn't mean to. Can you forgive me?" I put down my phone, looked up at her, and barely held back the smile threatening to curve my lips. "It's fine, kiss him all you want, even until he dies. I don't care." I meant every word of it. In Shin Ji-hwan's ears, it sounded like she was jealous over him. His mood had visibly improved. He rubbed his lower abdomen, his brows slightly furrowed. "Yun-ning, Tian is still young. Don't say that." I blinked. I didn't say she was old. Li Tian froze for a moment, then tears as big as beans rolled down her cheeks. "Sister-in-law, do you have to embarrass me in front of so many people?" "Yes, I accidentally kissed Mr. Shen. It's just a habit of mine, a subconscious thing. I didn't mean to kiss you. If you had been sitting next to me, I would have kissed you too. I'm not the kind of person you think I am." By the end, her little face was full of anger. I feel like laughing a little. How did she end up becoming the victim in the middle of the conversation? I pointed at her colleague who was watching the drama unfold from the other side. "Then why don't you kiss him? What kind of person do I think? Go on, tell me." Li Tian choked up, tears clinging to her lashes, on the verge of falling but not quite. Shin Ji-hwan frowned. "Yun-ning, that's enough. Tian is still young. She doesn't have that many hidden thoughts or ulterior motives." I stared at him steadily and smiled. "I'm just curious, what kind of habit makes someone instinctively kiss another woman's husband?" After a moment of thought, "Indeed, still quite young. I remember she's a year older than you, right?" Li Tian's face darkened. Her age has always been her Achilles heel. She tried to juggle work and preparing for the graduate school entrance exam, but couldn't handle both at once. When she focused on one, the other slipped through her fingers. This led to repeated failures in exams, growing older, and switching jobs more and more frequently. During these few months of internship, I've made nearly as many mistakes as the entire company's staff would make in a year, but Shin Ji-hwan insisted on protecting her. Shin Ji-hwan stood up, wiping Li Tian's tears while scolding in a low voice. "Enough, Yun-ning, you're getting more and more overbearing. It's a good thing that she has the desire to improve, unlike you. I don't even have the right to improve anymore." The private room was so quiet that you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. The other colleagues kept their heads down, staring at their plates, wishing they could disappear. I lowered my eyes. My heart, which had long been as still as a dead calm, still gave a faint pang. Too dull and insipid. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom and just left. Just outside the restaurant is the university district. Across the street, students just out of evening classes pour through the school gates and head straight for the snack street, their eyes bright with the innocence of youth. I also bought a starch sausage. The young couple nearby bought 2 sticks, eating them as they strolled along the street. Suddenly, I remembered many years ago. Shin Ji-hwan held my hand just like this, weaving through the smoky, bustling food stalls. He would always blow on the first bite of hot food to cool it, then bring it to my lips. His eyes filled with unabashed affection. Back then, he often said, "Yun-ning, when we have money, I'll give you the best life." But it's not that easy. We are all ordinary families. He wants to start a business. The family can offer very little support. I gave up my postgraduate recommendation qualification resolutely to support him, shared stale buns with him and lived in a basement day and night. I've been hunting for investors, drinking with clients until my stomach bled. At our toughest, we had to share a single pack of instant noodles between 2 people for an entire day. With red-rimmed eyes, he swore to the heavens, "Yun-ning, if I ever betray you in this life, may I die a miserable death." Now I do have a spacious house, expensive bags, and a supplementary card with no spending limit, and his comeuppance is on its way. 3 starch sausages are delicious. On the way back, I bought something else, passing by a stall selling sugar-roasted chestnuts. The caramelized sweetness stirred up distant memories. The winter of our first year of marriage, I suddenly craved the sugar-roasted chestnuts from the north of the city. He went to buy them before dawn. The moment I woke up, he brought the still steaming chestnuts to my lips. He peeled one, and I ate one. He said that when we had money someday, he would buy me the entire street of sugar-roasted chestnuts. Later, we had money, but he forgot. I do remember that Li Tian loves the tiramisu from that shop in the south of the city, and she never forgets to bring one. Back every time she returns from a business trip, the dull ache in my chest surged again. Instinctively, I pressed my hand against it and took a deep breath of the cold air. Don't get angry, Yun Ning. Getting angry at someone like that isn't worth it. If you get so angry that you end up sick like him, you're done for. We've only been enjoying the good life for a few days. My phone vibrated with a WeChat message from Shin Ji-hwan. Where the hell have you been? Did you know Tian Tian just went out? Looking for you. She's a girl. What if some drunk creep tries something? I let out a light scoff. In a private kitchen with top-notch security, how could there be so many drunk people? Surveillance cameras were everywhere, and waitstaff were constantly moving around. It's not like it's the bar where he took Li Tian Tian out from. Everyone's waiting for you. Don't be stubborn. Just come back and apologize to Tian Tian. She'll forgive you. I always have a bit of leniency for those who are about to die. I'm going back. After a long pause of typing, the other side finally sent, unbelievable. I gave you an out and you wouldn't take it. When did you become like this? I closed my eyes for a moment. I quickly opened his medical report to soothe my mind, for I went to my bestie's place get Shin Ji-hwan's medical examination report. I was supposed to pick it up from the hospital, but a meeting came up last minute. And then there was a dinner afterward. I'll just have to ask her to bring it back on her way home from work, my best friend asked me. So, are you still getting a divorce? I paused. Ever since he brought Li Tian Tian into the company, after openly showing her favoritism, the relationship between him and me started to become strained. We've argued, fought, and given each other the silent treatment every time. It's like punching a pillow. He always says the same thing. Yun Ning, can you be more mature? I'm just looking after a naive younger one. I stopped arguing after that. I quietly began gathering evidence, consulting a lawyer, and preparing the divorce papers. The hardships I endured with him, the sleepless nights we stayed up, and the tears we shed. It's not meant to be a stepping stone for another woman. If Shin Ji-hwan hadn't been suffering from severe abdominal pain a few days ago, he wouldn't have gone to the hospital. He avoids doctors like the plague and becomes arrogant and overbearing once he has money. They think that as long as they don't eat junk food, everything will be fine. Over the years, I wouldn't set foot in a hospital unless the pain was absolutely unbearable. How much time does he have left? My best friend's expression was complicated. At most 5 or 6 months left. I shook my head. No divorce. Splitting assets is another headache. I'll just wait for him to die. Then everything will be mine. My bestie patted me on the shoulder. You decide. It was already late at night when I got home. Only a floor lamp was lit in the living room. Shin Ji-hwan sat on the sofa, his face dark with gloom. Where have you been? I shook the paper bag in my hand, and the sweet aroma of chestnuts wafted out. Just went to grab some food. He clearly didn't believe it. His sharp gaze swept over me, as if searching for some evidence of my guilt. Buying chestnuts takes 4 or 5 hours. Yun Ning, if you're going to lie, at least come up with a believable excuse. The one from the north side of town. He froze for a moment, a flicker of days passing through his eyes as if recalling a brief, beautiful moment from the past. The tone softened. Even if you're sneaking a snack, you should at least let me know where you are. You're a grown adult, but you still don't know how to act responsibly. I didn't respond. Peel one for me too. I tightened the bag opening. No, you have a weak stomach, and you just ate seafood. Mixing the two could easily cause diarrhea. He raised an eyebrow, looking somewhat smug. Didn't expect you to be so observant. I'm speechless. Actually no, I'm just worried that if he notices the taste is off, he'll start losing his mind again. I'm already exhausted today, and I don't want to keep arguing with him anymore. But he just had to find fault. 5. Shin Ji-hwan straightened up, a hint of reproach in his demeanor. But either way, you need to rein in your temper. You're both girls. Stop always picking on Tian Tian. She's already having a hard time. My expression turned cold. The once delicious chestnuts instantly felt tasteless and bland. Shin Ji-hwan frowned when he saw the look on my face. I said coldly, what makes it hard for her? Is it the struggle of finally getting into grad school after years of trying, or the trouble of accidentally kissing someone else's husband? Shin Ji-hwan's face instantly darkened. Yun Ning, do you have to be so bitter? Tian Tian came from a poor family and worked her way through school entirely on her own. It hasn't been easy for her to get where she is today. She was just too happy today. That was her way of expressing joy. Is kissing a married man your way of expressing joy? I nodded. That's certainly unique. At the next company celebration, she might as well skip the toasts and just go around kissing everyone. That'd definitely boost morale. You, Shin Ji-hwan shot to his feet in fury, a sharp pang seeming to twist in his lower abdomen. He instinctively pressed his hand against his liver area, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. In a firm tone, he said, "You're impossible, I can't be bothered to argue with you." My eyes flickered as I watched his movements. Suddenly spoke up, "The medical checkup report is out. Aren't you going to ask about the results?" 6. He waved his hand and was about to speak when the phone rang. He glanced at me and picked it up. After a moment's hesitation, he answered, speaking softly, Tian, what's wrong?" "No idea what they said over there." Shin Ji-hwan's face drastically changed as he bent down to grab the car keys from the table. "Wait for me, I'm coming right now. Go back to your room and lock the door." After hanging up, he explained to me as he walked, "It seems like someone is trying to break into Tian's place. I have to go over there." I quietly watched his back as he hurriedly changed his shoes, and asked softly, "At this hour, is it really appropriate for a married man like you to go alone to a single female entrance place?" Shin Ji-hwan paused mid-motion and turned back impatiently. "Yun-ning, is this really the time to be nitpicking? What if something happens? It's not safe for a girl like her to be out there alone. She can call the police." I reminded him, "The police are more professional than you, the boss. Call the police, so everyone finds out a girl living alone has been targeted. Have you thought about her reputation?" Shin Ji-hwan said excitedly, "Yun-ning, how did you become so cold-blooded?" I lowered my head and continued peeling the chestnuts at a leisurely pace. "Shin Ji-hwan, do you remember that rundown neighborhood we lived in when we first moved? One night, someone tried to pry the door open. You told me to hide in the bedroom while you stood guard at the door with a baseball bat." Shin Ji-hwan froze, his movements slowing down. "That's different." His voice was deep. "I wasn't home that day." "The phone is ringing again." Li Tiantian's voice, tinged with tears, came faintly through the receiver. "President Shen, I'm so scared. There seems to be some noise outside the door." A look of worry immediately appeared on Shin Ji-hwan's face. "Don't be afraid, I'll be right there." Before leaving, he turned back as if to comfort me, but his tone was urgent. "The chestnuts smell really good. I'll bring you some next time I'm on a business trip there. It's been ages since we last ate them together." "That's very thoughtful of you." He's probably long forgotten. The one in the north of the city has already moved to the south. He only found out after asking around for a long time. The new location is right across from the cake shop that Li Tian loves, but in the 6 months since Li Tian arrived, I haven't had a single chestnut he bought. 8. The door slammed shut with a bang, causing the wedding photo on the wall to tilt slightly. In the photo, we smiled so happily and sweetly, as if we held the whole world in our hands. I leaned by the window, watching Shin Ji-hwan's car drive out of the neighborhood and disappear into the night. My mind drifts back to the first time we had a fight. I've come into a bit of money, just moved into a new home. Moved from a basement to a rundown neighborhood, 12th floor, no elevator. It's very tough, but we are all full of hope for the future. Paint the walls in your spare time, go thrift shopping for furniture. But before long, Shin Ji-hwan's startup hit a snag when investors suddenly pulled out, leaving him irritable and quick-tempered. That day, I used the money I had set aside for rent to buy him a decent shirt. He blew up at me. He said I was immature and couldn't prioritize, and he cursed me out harshly. I think I was on my period at that time, feeling both wronged and furious. They think they're right and just refuse to lower their head and apologize. Screamed at him to get out. That was also the first time he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I cried at home until midnight. Suddenly there was a noise outside the door. I'm a bit scared. My mind is filled with suspenseful home invasion cases. Panicked, she quickly called Shin Ji-hwan. He didn't answer until the 5th call. At that time, voices could already be faintly heard outside. Shin Ji-hwan panicked too. He told me to go back to the bedroom, lock the door from the inside, and guard it with a baseball bat. She wouldn't be able to get back anytime soon. I asked him where he was. He said that after going out, he joined a group and went for a night cycling ride. We're about to leave the city now. On the other end of the phone, I could hear Shin Ji-hwan's rapid breathing and the sound of wind, but the noise outside the door was getting louder, as if someone was picking the lock. Fear gripped my throat. Yun-ning, don't hang up, I'm getting a friend nearby to come to you. Just hold on. Shin Ji-hwan's voice was hoarse with panic. In that moment, I forgot we were arguing. All I remembered was that he was my rock. I crouched behind the bedroom door, gripping a baseball bat, listening to the rustling sounds outside. I'm trembling all over. Time crawled at an agonizingly slow pace. An eternity seemed to pass. A dull thud came from outside the door, followed by a man's curses and the sounds of a scuffle. An unfamiliar male voice shouted, "Sister-in-law, it's all clear, Brother Shin sent me, we've got him." My legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the ground. Only then did the tears belatedly well up. It was only later that I found out Shin Ji-hwan started frantically contacting nearby friends right after hanging up the phone. He himself was rushing back desperately. When he came back, his face was deathly pale. He rushed into the bedroom and held me tightly, his body still trembling slightly. "I'm sorry, Yuning, I'm so sorry. I'll never leave you alone again," he repeated over and over that night. He held me as if I were a treasure he had found again. He said, "No matter what happens in the future, I will never let you face danger alone." The night outside the window is an impenetrable black. I stood for a long time. I didn't leave until my legs and feet started to go numb. 9. My phone screen lit up with a message from Shin Ji-hwan. "We're safe, just a false alarm." It was the neighbor from next door who was drunk and mistook our door for his. Tian was terrified. "I'll calm her down and then head back. Seems like they're afraid I'll overthink it." There was also a photo attached, showing a corner of Li Tiantian's living room, with a glass of water on the table. "I'll just keep her company in the living room for a bit. I won't cross any lines." Comfort. How to calm them down like you comforted me back then. Hold her and say, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." I turned off my phone and didn't reply. Shin Ji-hwan didn't come back until the next morning. He was a bit surprised to see that I was already awake. "It's only 6 o'clock. Why are you up so early?" After a moment's thought, I probed cautiously. "Did you stay up all night or?" "I got up, my stomach hurt this morning, and I found out my period started." I didn't look up. Focused on peeling the boiled egg, he walked over and sat down across from me, trying to explain. Tian was emotionally unstable last night. She cried for a long time, and I really couldn't bring myself to leave. "Yeah, I understand." I put the peeled egg into my mouth and chewed slowly. My reaction was too subdued. This, instead, made Shin Ji-hwan somewhat uneasy. He frowned and looked me over. "Yun-ning, are you okay?" I looked up at him and smiled. "Why would anything happen to me? It's not like my house got burgled." He choked, his face turning somewhat unpleasant. "I know you're angry, but in that situation, I couldn't just stand by and let someone die. Even if it were just an ordinary employee, I would have gone." "Oh." I nodded. "Then you're a really kind and good boss." Perhaps to break the ice, he changed the subject. "Did you check my medical report? How is it? Am I as fit as a fiddle?" I stared at him, expressionless. "I'm dying." Shin Ji-hwan froze for a moment, then let out a soft chuckle and breathed a gentle sigh of relief. "Look at you, starting another fight with me. Every time we have a disagreement, you just stare at me with that blank expression. We've been together for 10 years, you can't fool me." I lowered my eyes, a faint smile curling at the corners of my lips. "I did tell you, but you just didn't believe it." 10. He raised an eyebrow slightly and poured himself a glass of milk. The tone is resolute. "If anything happened, Aining, you'd be the first to panic. Last time I just had the flu, and you were already sobbing your heart out. In the end, I, the patient, had to comfort you instead." "Yeah, if anything happens to Shin Ji-hwan, I'll be the most worried." I had just returned to my hometown during the Chinese New Year. While chatting with him on the phone, I could tell something was off, and after pressing him, I found out he had the flu. I hastily packed my luggage again, said a quick goodbye to my parents, and left. Tickets are already incredibly hard to come by during the Spring Festival travel rush. I barely managed to stand for over 10 hours on a slow, green train without a seat, crammed into the noisy, stinking vestibule of the train car, just to rush back and take care of him with a fever. He thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill at the time, that it was just the flu, but he didn't know. I overheard the doctor chatting with a nurse, saying there have been recent cases of myocarditis triggered by the flu, with a fairly high mortality rate. I was so terrified that my legs turned to jelly. I stayed by his side for 3 days without daring to close my eyes, until his fever finally broke. But that was 7 or 8 years ago. At that time, Yun-ning always believed that love could conquer all. I twitched the corner of my mouth, said nothing, and lowered my head to continue drinking my porridge. Shin Ji-hwan seemed to feel better once I tacitly confirmed his guess. They began discussing the company's recent plans, which included arrangements for Li Tian. Tian getting into grad school is great news. But you know how her family is, a bunch of leeches. I was thinking that in the few months before school starts, I'd make her a regular employee and give her a raise, as a way to encourage her hard work. After all, I'd been with the project for so long, even if I haven't made any major contributions, I've still put in the effort. I said indifferently, "As you wish, you're the boss, you decide." He seemed not to have expected me to agree so readily. He paused for a moment, then added, "Once her semester starts, if her coursework isn't too heavy." She can still come back for part-time work. College students these days have it tough. Closed my eyes, I dropped the spoon, and the ceramic clinked with a crisp sound, a look of impatience. Do you have to be such a killjoy? 11. Shin Ji-hwan furrowed his brows slightly. I just think she's a bit like you when you first started out. Don't read too much into it. Hearing that, I almost threw up. Sneer, contempt, disgust. I thought I wouldn't be like her, some woman in her late 30s who's been hustling in the real world for nearly a decade. She'd still accidentally spill coffee on her male boss's pants while serving it, and 9 times out of 10, she'd mess up the meeting time. Shin Ji-hwan wasn't fooled by this stale act from over a decade ago, just burying his head in the sand, merely words to justify his cheating with a clear conscience. All appetite for breakfast vanished, seeing how protective he was. The last trace of bitterness in my heart faded away completely. Instead, there is clarity. How blind was I to have gone from nothing to everything with someone like this? Back in the bedroom, I locked the door and pulled out my phone to scrutinize the report once more. Advanced stage liver cancer with portal vein tumor thrombus. Surgery offers little benefit and the prognosis is extremely poor. The experts gave a survival estimate of 6 months at most. A decade of love, enduring countless hardships with him, only to be met with disdain and betrayal after his success. Now, just 6 more months to wait. It's all over. The company, our joint property, will all legitimately fall into my hands. Perhaps this is a gift from heaven, sent because the gods couldn't bear to see me suffer any longer. 12. I changed my clothes, grabbed my bag, and headed out. Shin Ji-hwan looked at me. Going shopping? Want me to come with you? No need. I went straight to the law firm, inquired about the relevant matters. Noon. Shin Ji-hwan then sent me a message. Anning, I'll be on a business trip out of town for a few days. Take good care of yourself at home and don't overthink things. I didn't reply to him. Instead, I asked his assistant. Sure enough, Lee Tian was among the group. At night, I opened a certain book. She was the first one that popped up. She is a food review blogger with a few thousand followers, just sharing some daily moments. I actually discovered this account when I was playing around with Shin Ji-hwan's phone. They barely chat on WeChat, but on this platform, they're deep in heated conversation. At first, they chatted about food, and Shin Ji-hwan occasionally replied with a word or two. Later, it became Shin Ji-hwan who took the initiative to ask her which restaurant had good food, saying he wanted to take me to try it. It also became part of their play. 13. Lee Tiantian's latest update is a set of 9 grid photos located at a well-known resort hotel in another city. In the photo, she is beaming like a flower. The backdrop features an exquisite afternoon tea, an infinity pool, and a hazy night view. Although Shin Ji-hwan does not appear directly on screen, but in one of the photos, a wrist cutting into a steak was wearing the same limited edition watch as Shin Ji-hwan. In the glass reflection of another landscape photo, the faint outline of a man could be seen, identical to Shin Ji-hwan's figure. Grateful for life's surprises and guidance, every step forward carries more strength. P.S. This tomahawk steak is absolutely amazing. Colleagues are already joking in the comments section. Wow, President Shin is personally leading the team. Tian is so lucky, she'll eat well following President Shin. Lee Tian replied to everyone with a shy emoji. I screenshot it with a blank expression and saved it. Over the next few days, Lee Tian posted almost daily. Sometimes it's a landscape photo with the caption, "With someone who truly understands you. Even the wind tastes sweet." Sometimes it was a hotel buffet breakfast, with the corner of Shin Ji-hwan's suit jacket peeking out from the edge of the frame. Once, she even posted a selfie with a hotel room's floor-to-ceiling window in the background reflected a blurry male figure on the sofa. Using a laptop, she captioned, "A hard-working man is the most attractive. I need to step up my game too." I didn't call him out on it, nor did I reach out to Shin Ji-hwan. Just a brief in reply when he occasionally sends messages like "Good morning" or "Are you asleep?" I felt a bit disappointed I didn't manage to get that hotel king-size bed photo that people often post online. 14. 2 weeks later, Shin Ji-hwan returned. He brought me an expensive silk scarf as a gift. There was a hint of unnoticeable weariness in his expression, but he seemed to be in a good mood. The business trip went smoothly. I managed to close a big deal, he said while loosening his tie. Tian was a huge help this time. That girl's pretty sharp. I took the scarf and set it aside without even glancing at it. Really, it seems she's improving quickly. Shin Ji-hwan didn't catch the undertone in my words and continued on his own. Yeah, after all, she's young, quick to pick things up. Once she finishes graduate school, if she's willing to come back, the company could save a spot for her. I smiled and said nothing. Let's talk about it when we get there. That evening, Shen Jihuan came out of the shower, his face slightly pale, instinctively pressing his right abdomen. What's wrong? I asked. It's nothing. Just a bit tired and uncomfortable. He waved his hand. I'll be fine after a good night's sleep. I watched his retreating figure, sneering inwardly. The worst is yet to come. The next day was the weekend. Shen Jihuan, rare to have no business engagements, stayed home to rest. He was sitting on the sofa dealing with emails, while I was reading beside him. Li Tian called, her voice choked with tears, faintly coming through the receiver. Mr. Shen, what should I do? The school said there seems to be an issue with my admission status. Shen Jihuan immediately sat up straight. Don't panic, take it slow. What happened? Li Tian was crying her eyes out, looking like a mess of tears. They said there's an issue with my documents, might have my qualification revoked. Mr. Shen, I worked so hard to get in. Don't panic, I'll ask right away. Shen Jihuan hung up the phone and started scrolling through his contacts. I have a friend in the education sector, he should be able to help. He made a few phone calls, his tone urgent. I looked on coldly. He finally finished contacting everyone and looked relieved. I finally asked calmly, is she that important to you? Shen Jihuan paused mid-motion. He looked at me, his brows slightly furrowed. Yun Ning, here you go again. She's a girl from out of town, with no family or friends here. I'm her boss. Isn't it only right for me to lend a hand? No family or friends. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't she get into graduate school? The school won't just abandon her. Besides, she's an adult. If she can't even handle her own affairs, does her boss really have to worry about every little thing? You, Shen Jihuan was a bit annoyed. Can't you show some sympathy? How hard has it been for her to get where she is today? Her life hasn't been easy. I closed the book and looked him straight in the eye. Shen Jihuan, was it easy for us back then, when your business failed and you were being chased by debt collectors, and I was heavily pregnant, hiding with you from place to place? Whoever showed us any sympathy, that was the first child we lost due to displacement and overexertion. It couldn't be saved. Shen Jihuan's face instantly turned deathly pale, his lips trembling slightly, unable to utter a word. That is the deepest thorn in his heart. I rarely bring it up, but every time I do, it cuts him to the core. The living room fell into a dead silence. Just then, his phone rang again. It was Li Tian. Shen Jihuan glanced at me, hesitated for a moment, then still walked to the balcony to take the call. I watched his retreating figure, my heart turning to ice. See, guilt is guilt, but when it comes to taking care of the people he won't neglect them one bit. 15. He suddenly turned over in his sleep during the night. Put your hand on my waist. I froze instantly. I reflexively got out of bed and leaned over the trash can to vomit. Rapid breathing came from behind, as if suppressing anger. Yun Ning, what exactly did I do to make you this disgusted with me? I turned my head to look at him under the dim light. His figure appeared gaunt and frail. The yellowish eyes were set in a face so gaunt it was all bones and no skin. At this moment, he was glaring at me with eyes wide and fierce, utterly creepy. He looks a bit under the weather. Did you sleep with her? The air froze slightly. Shen Jihuan didn't deny it. His expression was complicated, his eyes cold. Yun Ning, it's normal for people in our circle to have a few lovers. Just remember, the position of Mrs. Shen is yours. Get lost. I grabbed the trash can and hurled it at him. Still talking about circles? You don't know your own limits. He is gone, as expected. He's going to be lost in the arms of bliss for quite some time to come. I was glad to have some peace and quiet, so I started getting down to business. First, go to the law firm to put the previous divorce consultation on hold, and switch the focus to consulting on inheritance matters. The lawyer is my college classmate, Zhou Cheng. She adjusted her glasses, looking puzzled. Yun Ning, are you really going to wait until he dies? Wouldn't that process be too agonizing? I stirred my coffee, my tone calm. Agony, compared to watching him spend the money we built together on his mistress and live to a ripe old age. I only feel relieved now. But, no buts. I looked up at her. Zhou Cheng, keep a close watch for me. I need to make sure that after he dies, all his assets go smoothly to me, especially the company shares. Zhou Cheng nodded. Don't worry, leave it to me. 16. The days that followed were incredibly fulfilling. Mornings at the spa, afternoons doing yoga, and occasionally catching up with friends in the evening. I also signed up for an oil painting class to fulfill a long-held little dream of mine. Shen Jihuan came home only occasionally, his complexion growing worse and worse, and he had become gaunt beyond recognition. He no longer mentioned Li Tian, nor did he hide the pain in his body. Sometimes he would clutch his stomach, sweat beading on his forehead, and sit still for hours. I pretended not to see it and just went about my business. Once, he was in such severe pain that he slumped weakly on the sofa, his face ashen. Yun Ning, his voice hoarse, could you pour me a glass of hot water? I looked at him and suddenly remembered how, many years ago, he would look at me with that same pitiful expression when he had a fever. Back then, I was beside myself with worry, wishing I could bear the pain for him. Now, I feel nothing at all. I just wish time would speed up. I poured a glass of water and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. Thank you. He reached for it, his hands trembling so badly that he couldn't hold the cup steady, spilling water all over himself. He looked at me in embarrassment, a hint of pleading in his eyes. Yun Ning, I think, I'm pretty sick. I grabbed a few tissues and handed them to him, my tone flat. Then go see a doctor. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, Yun Ning, if I had a serious illness, would you leave me? I almost laughed out loud. Now you remember to ask if I'll leave. I looked at him, my eyes full of concern. Don't talk nonsense. What serious illness could you have? At worst, your fatty liver's gotten worse. That's why I keep telling you to drink less. My avoidance actually came as a relief to him. He forced an ugly smile. Right. I've got a strong constitution anyway. He stopped bringing up going to the hospital, probably afraid that something might actually be found. Ostrich mentality suits me just fine. Looking at the thinning hair on his head, I suddenly felt a pang of pity. Shinji Huan, don't you have Li Tian? You can take her with you. He jerked his head up, his eyes filled with shock and hurt. Yun Ning, there's really nothing between me and her. I just thought she reminded me of you back in the day, and I wanted to help her out. I sneered. Like me, Shinji Huan, be honest with yourself. Would I, back then, have thrown myself at someone knowing full well they had a family, like she does? Would you back then have been unfaithful in marriage like you are now? He was speechless and slumped dejectedly onto the sofa. 17 I was at the spa when I got the call from the hospital. I heard he was dragged here in a sorry state, still having a good time with Li Tian. I didn't see any dignity, but I did see Li Tian scared out of her wits. There were still splatters of blood on the clothes. While waiting, several senior executives from the company arrived. They said a few words to comfort me, then left with different expressions on their faces. Shinji Huan was wheeled out, still under the effects of anesthesia, unconscious, his face ashen and lifeless, like a hollow shell drained of all vitality. I followed him, her to the ward. Li Tian tried to follow me in, but the nurse stopped her. Sorry, the ICU only allows immediate family members. She stood reluctantly at the door, staring at me with grievance. I sat by the hospital bed, looking at Shinji Huan's body covered in tubes. He slowly regained consciousness, his eyes cloudy for a moment when he saw me, before gradually focusing. Yun Ning, his voice was hoarse and dry. I handed him a little water to moisten his lips. Advanced stage liver cancer with liver rupture. Just had surgery, I said succinctly. His pupils contracted sharply, his lips trembled, and for a long time, he couldn't utter a word. A great fear finally seized him. After a long pause, he murmured, the report, you already knew. Yeah, I admitted openly. A flash of betrayed fury erupted in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at him calmly. I told you, I'm dying. You just didn't believe me. He choked, recalling the conversation from that day, as the anger on his face gave way to despair and disbelief. Do you hate me that much? He gasped. I smiled without answering, simply tucking the corner of the blanket around him gently. If you still remember my kindness, then just die quickly. Shinji Huan's eyes were dull and lifeless as he stared blankly at the ceiling. Maybe Li Tian knew Shinji Huan was about to fall, because from that day on, she never showed up in front of me again. 18 On the third day he passed away. My mother-in-law is here too. Cried until the world went dark. During the cremation, she held her son's urn between sobs. She blamed me for not taking good care of her son. I didn't give her a warm welcome either. When I first started my business, my mother-in-law looked down on me because my family couldn't offer much help. She's given me plenty of dirty looks and made it clear in every word that I'm holding her son back. Life got a little better later on. We bet everything we had on this one bid. Never expected to be stabbed in the back by a close friend or family member. It felt like being thrown right back into the hardest times. My mom came to see me once. She didn't say a word. In the second week, he gave me 800,000. This is the money from selling the family's house and car, plus their savings. The mother-in-law's expression softened a little, but not by much, as she bluntly stated that it was only right. After all these years of marriage, I've been careful not to put Shin Ji-hwan in a difficult position, so the times we've met can be counted on one hand. I ignored her too, after throwing a few tantrums. She came to realize that she would still have to rely on me for financial support in the days ahead. Much calmer now, I hurried back to my hometown happily, receiving payments on time every month. 19. After handling Shin Ji-hwan's funeral arrangements, I officially took over the company. Fortunately, I had been involved in management all along, so the transition went smoothly. Zhou Qing helped me with the inheritance procedures, and everything went smoothly. Life seems to have turned over a new leaf. I moved to a new place, got a new car, and traveled to a few destinations I'd always wanted to visit. Occasionally, I think of Shin Ji-hwan, but there is no longer hatred, nor love like recalling a stranger you haven't contacted in a long time. 6 months later, I ran into Li Tian at a business cocktail party, her smile radiant. She linked her arm with a middle-aged man's. She froze for a moment when she saw me, then walked over with a smile. Mr. Yun, long time no see. I nodded and looked her over. She looked much more mature, dressed in an expensive gown and adorned with sparkling jewelry. You seem to be doing well, I said. She smiled. Not bad, Mr. Wang treats me very well. Congratulations. I raised my glass. The President Wang, she referred to as a well-known investor in the industry, old enough to be her father, a bit quirky. It's just that Madame Wang's temperament isn't as good as mine. When old friends meet, they always bring a little something, out of kindness. I sent the photo to Mrs. Wang. I've heard some bits and pieces about Li Tian from mutual acquaintances. It is said that after Mrs. Wang received the photos, she went straight to Mr. Wang's company and caused a scene in front of many executives. Wang was humiliated by Li Tian, under pressure from his in-laws. He had no choice but to end the relationship in disgrace. Li Tian's graduate admission also appeared to be under review due to some procedural irregularities, and ultimately, she was unable to enroll successfully. She tried to find other sponsors, but her reputation was ruined. No one in the circle was willing to take over, and it quickly faded into obscurity. You reap what you sow. The universe has its way of balancing things out. Another spring, and I passed by the north of the city. I discovered that the sugar-roasted chestnut shop has actually reopened, with the same old master still there. I bought a portion and stood by the roadside, slowly peeling them. The chestnuts tasted just as I remembered, sweet, soft, and sticky, only, the one eating the chestnuts is no longer the same at heart. Story 2. My billionaire husband has suffered from a stomach problem for years. It's only with the traditional Chinese medicine I boil for him every day that he can get some relief. 9 years into our marriage, my husband forgot to accompany me to my prenatal checkup for the 5th time, enduring the abdominal pain that was a sign of a possible miscarriage. I sent him a divorce agreement. His young girlfriend shed tears and said, "It's all my fault. If you hadn't accompanied me, sister wouldn't be angry." My husband soothed her in a soft voice, but all he said to me was, "Let's get a divorce then, don't regret it." It was only later that my husband, who was suffering from a stomachache, accidentally came across the prescription for the traditional Chinese medicine that treated his stomach problem. Why isn't the Chinese medicine being boiled? When Bruce pushed the door open and got home, he was holding his aching stomach with his hand. In the past, whether he came home or not, I would always spend at least 2 hours boiling the prescription for nourishing the stomach. I ignored him and continued applying a facial mask while scrolling through my phone. He frowned, sent me the link to a luxury bag store, and then transferred 100,000 yuan to me on the chat interface. The last record of him typing to talk to me was still from 7 months ago. After that, he would only occasionally buy an expensive gift. Gradually, he even got too lazy to choose gifts. He would just send links and transfer money, letting me make the choice myself. I was too lazy to reply to him. I switched to the game Candy Crush and casually said to him, "Remember to find time to get a divorce. Bruce is very busy, and in terms of time, I'm willing to cooperate with him. Stop being silly, boil the medicine, and I'll drink it up properly today." Traditional Chinese medicine is bitter. In order to get Bruce to finish the medicine, I have to think of all kinds of ways. Every time, slowly, following my words and drinking the medicine properly became his way of coaxing me. After he finished speaking, he threw his phone on the sofa and went into the bathroom to wash up. The phone screen was still on, and the screensaver was a selfie of his young assistant, Grace. There were also 8 pink words: "Uncle, be good and remember to take your medicine." Grace's family and Bruce's family have been friends for generations. When we had our wedding banquet, she was still a little girl, dressed as a flower girl. She said sweetly, "May you have a long and happy marriage." In the blink of an eye, she grew up. Not long after she returned from studying abroad, she became the personal assistant of her Bruce. I'm not actually annoyed by Grace's affection for Bruce. It takes two to tango. If he knew how to keep his distance, there wouldn't be a young girlfriend that everyone in the city knows about. Bruce came out wrapped in a bath towel, clicked on his phone, and when he saw the screensaver, he smiled with a look of doting. His stomach ached again, his straight eyebrows furrowed, and when he looked up at me, there was a hint of disgust in his expression. Maybe he was blaming me for not boiling the medicine. Just using a screensaver to remind him to remember to take his medicine can get his doting and tenderness. 9 years into our marriage, I didn't forget to spend 2 hours boiling medicine for him even when I was in confinement, but our relationship as husband and wife has gradually become cold, and his eyes are full of impatience and disgust. I pretended not to see his look, stretched exaggeratedly, and turned my head away. I didn't want him to see the slightly moist corners of my eyes. "Grace will pick up our daughter tomorrow." He was replying to a message and said to me without looking up, "The daughter is mine, but Grace always likes to act like the mistress of the house. She often goes to pick up our daughter without telling anyone." Once, I couldn't get through to my daughter on the phone, and I was so worried that I called the police after that. Bruce got angry with me, thinking that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I shook my head, trying to dispel some unpleasant memories. I smiled and said, "Okay, help me thank this young lady." Bruce seemed to be stung. After a moment of silence, he flew into a rage. "Ruby, don't always challenge my bottom line." I curled up a bit to make myself lie more comfortably. "By the way, don't worry that a pregnant woman can't get a divorce. I had a miscarriage." Bruce didn't accompany me to any of the 5 prenatal checkups, but for the 4th one, he did send me halfway, only to receive a call from Grace. Her puppy was going to be sterilized, and she was feeling anxious. Of course, sterilizing a puppy is not as important as my prenatal checkup, but Grace is more important than me. Enduring the abdominal pain, I took a taxi by the roadside to the hospital. The doctor said there was a possibility of a miscarriage, and I was also in danger. Recently, Bruce has been busy accompanying Grace to meet her elders, so naturally, he couldn't remember the date of my 5th prenatal checkup. Well, this time, for my own safety, I chose to have an induced abortion. In the living room, Bruce clenched his fists and was silent for a long time after hearing the news. He knew that I had gone to all the prenatal checkups alone. He had no right to blame me for anything, but his words were full of sarcasm. "Well, if you can't be a good wife, how can you be a good mother?" I smiled and was about to go back to my room to sleep, leaving only one sentence: "You're right, I can't be a good mother, so I deserve to have a miscarriage." Bruce and I met when we were young. The beginning of our love story wasn't anything spectacular. He said he took a liking to me at first sight. At that time, I also thought he was good-looking and felt shy. When we were in university, under the pressure of his family, he went to study in the Americas. I stayed in China to study. My life was plain, between the dormitory, the classroom, and the library. Because of his relationship with me, a girl from a poor family, his family cut off his allowance. He didn't give in. He squeezed out the cost of a round-trip ticket to come back to China once every 2 months from his scholarship, and that's how he developed his stomach problem. He liked the southern rice noodles I cooked. I felt sorry for his stomach problem and didn't put chili peppers in the noodles for him, but he would secretly drink the spicy soup left over from my meal. I found a prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat his stomach problem and boiled the medicine for him. He smiled and licked the dirt off my face, both touched. After graduating from university, he came back to China that year. My mother passed away in the hospital due to giving birth at an advanced age. My father, who had been longing for a son all his life, got drunk in the hospital. He pointed at my mother's body and cursed loudly, and then punched and kicked me. Bruce fought with my father and beat him up while being surrounded by my uncles. My father ended up with a lame leg, and Bruce had a cut on his back. I applied medicine to him with tears in my eyes. He turned his head and kissed me. He said that for the sake of just a child, he would never put his woman in danger. He said that if possible, he hoped I wouldn't have to give birth. He hoped I would always be healthy. That night, I gave myself to him because I wanted to have a child for him when we were young. We said a lot of sweet words to each other. Now, he even forgot to accompany me to the prenatal checkups, which are essential for ensuring my basic health. A week after moving out of the villa, I went to the hospital for a follow-up check. I asked questions very carefully, fearing that I might leave behind any lingering health problems. The doctor prescribed some medicine to nourish blood and qi, and then thanked me. "Ruby, The prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat stomach problems that you provided to the hospital last time has a very good effect. I knew it had a good effect. Bruce, being a wealthy young master, requires very careful conditioning over the years. The prescription I refined through his long illness couldn't be bad. When I went to pick up the medicine, I ran into Grace. She was full of insincere words, advising me to take care of my body. She also said that Bruce accompanied her to the hospital to see the dentist today. I ignored her. I actually thought that if this girl jumped into the Yellow River, people all over the country could have a sip of Longjing tea, which could be considered a blessing. Why are you here? Surprisingly, it was Bruce who spoke. He looked extremely unhappy. I was a bit curious. When does he show such an angry expression when Grace is around? When will you stop making trouble and move back? Bruce has always thought it's my fault. His words were like an order. I covered the medical bill in my hand and didn't want to pay attention to him, but he snatched the bill and his face turned even uglier. Is today your prenatal checkup, or a follow-up check? Why didn't you tell me? Ruby, talk to me. How long are you going to keep making trouble? He still thought that my moving out of the villa was just me making trouble with him, that I was reluctant to leave him, and that it was a way to attract his attention. I couldn't stand his tone and politely gestured for him to step aside. Bruce, this is a hospital. Please don't make a scene. He lowered his voice and asked Grace, I asked you to check the time of Ruby's follow-up check. Why didn't you remind me? Grace's face was full of surprise and panic. I forgot to. I shook my head. I really didn't want to watch any more of their drama. Holding the medicine, I walked outside. My wrist suddenly tightened. Bruce grabbed my hand very tightly. I didn't remember today, but when will you come back? Bruce, if you have time to ask me questions, you also have time to accompany Miss Chu to see the doctor. I wonder when you'll have time to find a moment to get a divorce with me. Grace suddenly pointed at a notice board in the hospital, trying to interrupt the tug-of-war between Bruce and me. Ahem, Bruce, look, this hospital has a prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to regulate the stomach. She spoke in a sweet voice, pretending to be caring and cute. Aren't you always having a stomachache recently, Bruce? It says here that this is the latest high-quality prescription. I took the opportunity to break free from Bruce and walked out quickly. When I turned the corner and left, through the glass, I saw Grace shaking Bruce vigorously, and Bruce was standing in front of that notice board, staring at it without moving. Although I've been a housewife for many years, my working ability hasn't deteriorated. A new job, a new residence, and a new life. Everything is developing in a positive direction. On the day I urged my lawyer to prepare for a divorce lawsuit, Bruce called me. I hung up. He called again. I hung up. He called once more. I blocked his number and sent a message, talk to my lawyer. After a while, my lawyer told me that Bruce's lawyer informed us to meet at a private kitchen restaurant. When I arrived, I didn't see either of the lawyers. Instead, I found that all of Bruce's family members were there. My daughter looked at me timidly and was sitting next to Grace. My heart ached, but I was also a bit annoyed. Bruce, where are the lawyers? Bruce stood up and then sat down again. He just said indifferently, this is a family dinner. We're not talking about other things. A family dinner. Why is the assistant here for a family dinner? I was annoyed for a moment. Bruce looked at me and said softly, our daughter is here too. Regarding my daughter, I had already made up my mind. It's indeed pitiful for a child to grow up in a single-parent family, but in a family where the parents are unhappy. How can there be a child who grows up healthily but in front of my daughter? I held back. My eyes turned red, and I stroked my daughter's face. We hadn't seen each other for a long time. In the eyes of my 7-year-old daughter, there was happiness and a hint of fear. Grace hugged my daughter and looked at me provocatively. Susan, tell sister what the piano teacher has taught you recently. As soon as she said this, everyone looked at Grace with great approval. As Bruce's personal assistant, Grace meddles in all the affairs related to my daughter. I know that in the eyes of his family, a young lady like Grace, who also comes from a prestigious family, is worthy of taking care of their child. His mother is even worse. She resents that I once provoked Bruce to turn against the family. She has never thought that I have any upbringing and keeps making things difficult for me. In the past, for the sake of my daughter and Bruce, I endured all the grievances. Grace let go of my daughter, took out a paper bag, and handed it to Bruce. She pretended to be cute in a soft voice. Before at the hospital, Bruce stared at the notice board of the prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat stomach problems for a long time. I made several special trips and bought a lot of the medicine back. Bruce glanced at me, holding the paper bag of traditional Chinese medicine in his hand. He was stunned for a moment. Naturally, his family gave Grace a new round of praise. I squatted down and talked softly with my daughter. I don't care about her studies or piano playing, I only care about whether she is happy and healthy. My daughter clenched her right fist tightly, and her left index finger gently scratched my arm. Her eyes were full of caution. I suddenly became angry. I knew that this was a sign that the child was emotionally unstable and seeking dependence. Grace is in charge of my daughter's study, daily life, and extracurricular activities. What kind of scare has this 7-year-old child endured to be so cautious even in front of her mother? Bruce, I'll be in charge of our daughter's education from now on. With tears in my eyes, I held my daughter in my arms, and my daughter also hugged my arm tightly. Ruby, what kind of upbringing do you have? You're not fit to teach my family's child. Before Bruce could say anything, his mother said sharply. Bruce's face looked ugly. He stood up and stared into my eyes. What are you trying to do now? Grace had a look of contempt on her face and didn't miss the opportunity to speak in a sarcastic way. Sister Ruby, if you think I'm not doing it right, you can just. But Bruce suddenly turned around and scolded her. Shut up. He was obviously angry, and there were all sorts of indescribable emotions in his eyes when he looked at me. Ruby, what kind of jealousy are you getting worked up about this time? When will you be a mother who's not crazy and a wife who's not unreasonable? I didn't want to argue with him at all. But today, the anger that I had buried for years was completely ignited. I looked at him, recalling all the hopes in the past and all the disappointments and despair now. My chest was filled with emotions. Do you want to see what a truly crazy mother is like? What a truly unreasonable wife is like? Bruce squeezed his hand tightly, and the bag of traditional Chinese medicine burst. All the medicinal herbs that I was very familiar with spilled out. They scattered all over the table. Don't be like this, you're scaring me. Let's talk properly about whatever. Grace grabbed Bruce's sleeve, looking pitiful. Who wouldn't feel sorry for her? But I wouldn't. I picked up the scattered traditional Chinese medicine on the table and poked the dried herbal branches straight at Grace's face. Don't you know how to shut up? Do you want me to teach you? Grace was so scared by me that she hid behind Bruce and didn't dare to say anything more. This, of course, aroused Bruce's desire to protect her. That's enough, Ruby. Put the things down. Why are you threatening her? At least she puts effort into my stomach problem. What about you? If you had cared more about me and our family, Grace wouldn't have to be so busy. Bruce's words stabbed me deeply. I sneered. I didn't care enough about you. But did you care about me? If you had cared about me, how could you not recognize these medicinal herbs? They were all refined by me day and night when you had a stomach problem. This is the prescription you've been drinking every day. Does Grace need to go to the hospital to get it? His family was surprised to see me suddenly become assertive. His mother seemed to have caught me in the act. She accused me of various issues in front of Bruce, saying that after hiding my true nature for so many years, I had finally revealed my true colors. Since things had come to this, I didn't really mind taking on such a bad reputation. Anyway, there was no need for me to keep enduring grievances and compromising. The only thing I couldn't let go of was my daughter. I squatted down and asked my daughter if she wanted to come with me. My daughter looked at Grace timidly. Grace immediately showed a triumphant expression and held out her hands to my daughter. Susan, come to sister. You still have a piano class today. How about sister takes you to practice the piano? She spoke in a soft voice and was praised by everyone, but to everyone's surprise, my daughter suddenly let out a sharp scream, turned around, and hugged my leg tightly, refusing to let go no matter what. I don't want to go to the piano class. I want to go with Mom. My eyes welled up with tears. After all, she was my daughter. Even though she was usually controlled by his family and we rarely got to meet, she still regarded me as her last haven. I patted my daughter's head to soothe her and questioned Grace about what she had done to my daughter. Of course, Grace wouldn't tell the truth. She was full of excuses and denials. So I turned to Bruce and asked him, "You said I don't care enough about our daughter. But what about you? Do you know why Susan has such a strong reaction to the piano class?" Bruce hadn't said a word since just now. Now, when I asked him, he came back to his senses and said, "It's normal for a child to want to avoid hardship. Don't make a big deal out of this here." I picked up my daughter and placed the divorce agreement that I had prepared long ago on the table. Then consider it me making a big deal out of it. I will never let my daughter stay in any environment that might harm her healthy growth. That day, I took my daughter away firmly. When we got home, I saw the scars on my daughter's body that were hidden by her clothes. After I soothed her several times, she told me that whenever she made even the slightest mistake, Grace would hit her. always in places where it wouldn't be easily noticed. Grace was too eager to prove to his family that she could raise an excellent descendant of their family, so she wouldn't allow Susan to make any mistakes. I held my daughter in my arms and felt deeply regretful. If I had been tougher before, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. The next day, I took a leave for my daughter. I called my friend Diana, whom I hadn't been in touch with for a while, and we took my daughter to an amusement park. His family never allowed her to come to such places, thinking that it would make her lose her ambition, but I believed that this was the kind of childhood a child should have. Diana and I watched from below as my daughter rode the carousel. Seeing her happy, I finally felt at ease, but apparently, Diana still couldn't quite come to terms with the changes that had happened to me overnight. Are you really going to divorce Bruce? You two were so in love before. How did it come to this? Diana was a classmate of ours in university. She knew everything that had happened back then. It was precisely because she knew that she couldn't understand how Bruce had become like this. People change. It's just that I've been stuck in the same place, and it's time for me to look forward. He's a total jerk. It's okay, I'll introduce you to someone better. Sis, Diana patted her chest confidently. My phone rang again and again. It was Bruce, and I hung up on him every time. In the end, Bruce called Diana's phone. Diana, not knowing anything, answered the call and then awkwardly handed the phone to me. How did he know I was with Diana? I took the phone, and Bruce's voice came through. Susan should be at school today, not wasting her time in an amusement park like you. See, what did I tell you? Are you following me? I'm just worried that you can't take good care of Susan. Judging by this, you're really not fit to be a mother. Send Susan back and give her to Grace. I just felt like I had heard the biggest joke. So making a child happy means not taking good care of her, and beating her all over means taking good care of her. I hung up on Bruce, picked up my own phone, and sent Bruce the photos of the scars on my daughter's body. Bruce didn't reply. I was too lazy to pay attention to him and just went on with my new life as usual. My new job was going smoothly, and it also gave me a lot more time to go out and have fun with Diana. We went out with my daughter, and she became much more cheerful. With my daughter's nod, I sent her back to school. Now I had even more time for myself. A new junior colleague joined the company. He was young and obedient, and he would call me sister every day while following me around. He had just graduated from university. Every time he talked to me, he would blush, and even my daughter would tease him. I heard that he majored in music in university, so he had a lot in common with Susan. Only when he talked about music would he change his usual shy demeanor. Diana said that he must have a crush on me and wanted to be Susan's stepfather. I waved my hand, thinking it was impossible. How old was he? My daughter was already 8 years old. How could I delay his life? Moreover, that guy Bruce, why hasn't he signed the divorce agreement yet? I complained to Diana. The days without having to take care of a man were so great. I was really getting impatient. Bruce dragged it out for 2 whole weeks before coming to me with Grace. I was about to pick up Susan from school when Bruce blocked me at the door and dragged Grace to apologize to me. Grace is too young to know how to take care of a child. She did a lot of extreme things. I brought her here to apologize to you. I didn't know how Bruce had reprimanded Grace. It was the first time I saw such an unwilling expression on this woman's face. She apologized to me reluctantly, begging for my forgiveness. She kept repeating the same few words, and I was so tired of hearing them. Are you done? If you're done, you can leave. I still need to pick up my daughter. Just as I was about to leave, Bruce grabbed my hand. Ruby. He held me, but he didn't say anything for a long time. I hadn't seen him being so hesitant for many years. When he and I first got together, he would always try to figure out my mood like this. He would guess whether I was happy or sad that day and whether he had done anything to make me unhappy later. Bruce became the decisive and forceful Bruce, and his attitude towards me was no different from that towards his subordinates. It was only me who had to guess his thoughts. Now he was acting like this again. Who was he trying to show it to? I shook off Bruce's hand and walked straight towards the garage. Grace was very dissatisfied with my attitude. She ran up and blocked my way. Uncle has something to say to you. Can't you see that? How can you treat him like this? Shut up, Bruce interrupted Grace's chattering. This has nothing to do with you. Grace had obviously never been treated so harshly by Bruce before. I guessed that she hadn't had a good time recently, because of the matter with my daughter. Bruce had scolded her a lot, but she must have never expected that Bruce would scold her for my sake. After all, even I couldn't figure out what Bruce was up to. Uncle, I just can't stand the way she treats you. She doesn't even know what you've been through these days. this is a matter between husband and wife, it has nothing to do with you." The words husband and wife stung Grace. She took 2 steps back, bit her lip, and left crying just as I was about to ask Bruce if he didn't need to chase after her. My phone rang. It was my lovely junior colleague, Edward, on the phone. He anxiously told me that Susan was missing. Edward got off work early today, thinking of giving my daughter a gift. He came to the school and waited for her, but he didn't expect that even after all the students had left, she still hadn't come out. Since he came early and knew that I definitely hadn't arrived yet, he went to the classroom to ask the teacher and learned that my daughter had already left. I rushed to the school. Edward was standing next to the homeroom teacher, stamping his feet in anxiety. "Is there any news about Susan?" The homeroom teacher shook her head, and we had to search separately. Bruce also came with me. When he heard that Susan was missing, his first reaction was to blame me, but I grabbed his collar and said to him in a fierce tone that he had never seen before, "If anything happens to Susan, the first person I won't forgive is you." I knew I was lashing out at him, but over the years, the number of times I had seen my daughter could be counted on one hand. If I could have seen her more often and known her better, perhaps I could have guessed where my daughter might go when she went missing. Bruce followed me the whole time and asked his people to help search for my daughter all over the city, but this made me even more afraid. I was afraid that his family would find my daughter before me, and if that happened, I would surely lose my daughter forever. But fortunately, the first person to find Susan was Edward in the school's abandoned warehouse. She had been locked up by a group of naughty children. My daughter had been knocking on the door for help, but because the place was remote, no one came to rescue her for a long time. Fortunately, Edward heard her. This wasn't the first time such a thing had happened. Usually, those children would let my daughter out before school was over to prevent being discovered, but they forgot today. I asked my daughter if she had told Bruce about it. My daughter told me that Bruce was too busy and didn't have time to care about such things, and Grace would just tell her not to cause trouble for her if it wasn't for me taking care of her recently, which made her develop the mentality to seek help. I don't know how long she would have been locked up here. The occurrence of such a thing was definitely related to the teacher's usual negligence in management. I demanded that the school deal with those so-called naughty children. Bruce was dissatisfied with my high-profile approach. He thought it wasn't something to be proud of and wanted to solve it privately, but I refused. I said to Bruce, "It's because you couldn't protect her that this happened. You don't deserve to make demands on me." After saying that, I took my daughter away. After leaving, I took my daughter to the hospital. The long-term school bullying had caused her serious psychological trauma. I gave the hospital's diagnosis to my lawyer and filed a lawsuit in court, on the grounds that Bruce didn't have the ability to take good care of our daughter. I obtained the custody of my daughter and also got the divorce certificate from Bruce. The 9-year-long love affair between Bruce and me came to an end at this moment. When I got the divorce certificate, I found that I didn't feel anything. It turned out that my feelings for him had long been worn away over the years. Edward was waiting for me outside the courthouse, holding a bouquet of flowers, ready to give them to me, a bouquet of sunflowers, representing hope and new beginnings. Now it would be too fake to pretend that I couldn't see his feelings. He was very good to me and also paid a lot of attention to my daughter, but I still didn't have the intention of accepting him from any perspective. I didn't plan to start a new relationship. I took Edward's flowers and joked, "Are you giving me these for Susan to crack the seeds?" Although Edward was shy, he was very smart. He understood my rejection and didn't say anything. He just said that he had another gift for my daughter and invited her to go to a musical together during the summer vacation. When he said this, he nervously licked his lips. I knew that he actually wanted to invite me, but I shook my head and refused. Edward, on behalf of my daughter, I promised my daughter that I would take her on a trip during the summer vacation to heal the scars in her heart and also to heal my soul that had withered for Bruce for 9 years. I finally got my freedom, and I was going to have a great time, but I overlooked the fact that Bruce wasn't an easy person to deal with. The powerful Bruce, who could cover the sky with one hand, managed to get my daughter's medical records, pointing at the doctor's diagnosis on it, on the grounds that the doctor recommended giving my daughter the care of a warm family. He came to me to ask for a remarriage. I cursed the doctor 100 times in my heart for lacking medical ethics. How could he so casually disclose the patient's privacy to others? But since the other party was my daughter's father, it seemed to be in line with the regulations. I didn't know what had gotten into Bruce. He didn't want his young and beautiful assistant but came to me, a woman past her prime, to ask for forgiveness. But Bruce stood at the door, looking extremely tired, as if the recent days had made him lose his glory all of a sudden. He was no longer the superior CEO in front of me. Instead, he was like the Bruce when we first got together, shy and cute, just like Edward. He was the Bruce who would skip meals and save money for 2 months just to come and see me. He was the Bruce who would put his heart into pleasing me and worry about whether I was angry or not. Ruby, I know it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so busy with work and ignored you. Can you give me another chance? Bruce, people should look forward. My decision to divorce you wasn't a momentary impulse. Our relationship has long been worn out. Your discomfort now is just because you haven't gotten used to it yet, and I have long been used to such days under your indifference. Bruce, what you need isn't a reunion but to get used to the new situation. I looked at Bruce and felt that he now resembled myself when I first realized that he didn't love me anymore. He still thought we could get back together, probably because he thought he still had feelings for me and was unwilling to accept the fact that he had already changed his heart. Susan is in this state now. She can't grow up without a father. Give me a chance. It's also a chance for Susan. Okay, I really can't lose you, but she has never received your fatherly love. For her, there's no difference between having a father and not having one, is there? As for whether you can lose me, what does that have to do with me? But our daughter emerged from the room. She looked at Bruce timidly, hugged my leg, and showed an aggressive stance towards Bruce. She was protecting me. You see, both Susan and I don't welcome you. You can leave now. I closed the door, but I knew Bruce wouldn't leave easily. Every time I went out these days, I could see Bruce waiting downstairs, but he just watched from a distance and didn't take a single step forward because I said he wasn't welcome here. It's quite funny. In the past, he always turned a deaf ear to whatever I said. Now he obeys every word I say. According to Diana, the entire Jean Corporation is in chaos now. All because Bruce hasn't been going to work and has been coming to my place every day. His mother is almost going crazy. In their mouths, I, a single mother, have become the femme fatale who causes all the trouble. Grace comes to persuade Bruce to leave every day, but now Bruce doesn't even glance at her. Grace had no other choice but to come to the company and block me, asking me how long I intended to torture Bruce. I never intended to torture him. Isn't all of this his own choice? Just like me in the past, his attitude towards me was so clear-cut, but I was willing to stay by his side, longing for him to still love me. My attitude towards him is also very clear now. If he insists on putting on a bitter drama, he's just bringing trouble on himself. After hearing this, Grace started to go crazy. She cursed at me like a madwoman and tried to pounce on me and hit me. I called the security guards to restrain her. I was too lazy to listen to her accusations, which were nothing more than things like hating why I had a place in Bruce's heart and why she couldn't compare to me. It has nothing to do with me. Belated affection is always cheaper than grass. Grace was dragged out, and finally, I had some peace and quiet. It started to overcast outside, and it seemed like it was going to rain. When I got home, it was raining the hardest. Bruce stood at the door like a drowned rat and asked me if I could take him in. I told him to dream on. I walked past Bruce and closed the door directly. Diana was waiting for me at home. We had made an appointment to have hot pot at home tonight. It was just perfect with the rain outside. Bruce is outside. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Why should I care about him? Will he share the meat with you and me? Is this little bit of meat even enough for you to eat alone? I asked Diana, and Diana burst into laughter, saying that I did the right thing and that's exactly how I should treat Bruce. Actually, I don't particularly want to take revenge on him. I'm just too lazy to care about him. Men are not as important as hot pot, are they? But I didn't expect that since I didn't let Bruce in. He actually stood outside in the rain all night. When I saw Diana off in the morning, I tripped over the person lying at the door. Bruce was lying at the door, frowning, his eyes tightly closed, and his hand clutching his stomach hard. I didn't know if he was dead or not. I bent down and touched his forehead. It was burning hot. Diana and I dragged him into the house together. Then I asked Diana to take our daughter out to play because I didn't want the sick person to infect our daughter. Bruce woke up while I was out buying medicine. When I got home, he was dragging his sick body to clean up the mess Diana and I left behind last night. Are you planning to die in my house and make me take responsibility? In the face of my words, Bruce was at a loss. He was still holding a plate with congealed red oil in his hand, not knowing whether to put it down or not. I just wanted to share some of the burden with you. He used to say the same thing. At that time, he was abroad and I was in China. In order to catch up with him, I considered applying to a foreign school and stayed up late studying every day. He Also wanted to do some housework and told me in the bathroom full of soap bubbles that he wanted to share some of the burden for me. 9 years have passed, and his housework skills haven't improved at all. I don't need it. The best thing you can do for me is to leave my house right away. I have nowhere else to go now. Can you please take me in? Look, the CEO of Jean Corporation is acting like a stray dog in front of me. You have nowhere to go. Mom is very dissatisfied with me, she said. That if I can't solve my marriage problem, I shouldn't go home again. Only Bruce would think that the marriage problem his mother mentioned includes me. Even at this point, that person would never accept me as a daughter-in-law. But I still said to Bruce, fine, then don't go back. Bruce's eyes lit up because of this. He quickly cleaned up everything on the table, wiped his hands, and asked me what I wanted to eat. I threw the medicine to him and told him to take care of himself first. Bruce stayed at my place for 3 days. During these 3 days, he did everything a father and a husband should do, and even more than that if he had done this before we got divorced. I'm afraid I would have woken up laughing in my dreams, but now, looking at his flattery, I don't feel anything in my heart. However, seeing our daughter so happy, I still asked her if she still wanted a father, but our daughter hugged me and told me that she didn't care. She knew what her father had done before, and she only hoped that I could be happy. I kissed our daughter and promised her that even if it was just me, I would still give her the best. On the 5th day, I stopped Bruce, who was about to go out, and gave him a sum of money. Bruce was confused. I told him that this was the payment for the housework he had done at my place in the past 2 days. Why? I let you stay because it was the reward for me taking care of you when you were sick. I was busy in the following days and let you stay for 2 more days. This is your salary. Is there a problem? Bruce didn't reply for a long time. Our daughter had already pushed out a suitcase that was even bigger than her and was ready to leave. Edward and Diana were waiting for me at the door. I opened the door and said to Bruce, who was standing there dumbfounded, hurry up and leave. I'm going to lock the door. Where are you going? Edward picked up our daughter, pushed my suitcase away, and said, to the airport. Right, Susan. Bruce panicked. He ran up and pointed at Edward, asking me, is it because of him? Is it because of him that you don't want to get back together with me? You're crazy. I waved away Bruce's hand and got into the car-hailing vehicle that I had already ordered. Edward put my suitcase in the trunk for me. Bruce chased after us, grabbed the car door, and tried to pull me out. Edward grabbed his wrist and pushed him away. Ruby, are you really leaving? I ignored him and directly told the driver to drive. I could see Bruce following us in his car behind. Diana asked me if I really wasn't touched at all. When Bruce pushed the door open and got home, he was holding his aching stomach with his hand. At the airport, Bruce followed me all the way. Every time he tried to come forward, Edward blocked him behind. After I went through the security check, looking at Bruce outside the security check, finally, I said the words that I had always wanted to say to him, goodbye, Bruce. I turned around and left, leaving Bruce, who was crying loudly, behind me. Our daughter asked me why I didn't tell him that we were just going on a trip. I said, there's no need to explain everything to others. Before taking care of their feelings, we need to love ourselves first, the end.